The readings today are from the book of Ruth. A long time ago, when judges still ruled over Israel and the land was dried up with famine, a man from Bethlehem, which ironically means place of bread, left his home in Judah to live as a foreigner in the land of Moab. He traveled with his wife and their 2 sons. His name was Elimelech, and his wife was Naomi. Their 2 sons were called Mahlon and Chilion. They were descendants of Ephraim's tribe from Bethlehem in Judah. They had settled and made lives for themselves in Moab. But soon after, Elimelech died, leaving Naomi in the care of her sons. Each son married a woman from Moab. One was named Orpah, the other Ruth. And they lived together for 10 years before Mahlon and Chilion died also. Naomi was left alone without her husband and 2 sons. Word had reached Moab that the Eternal One had once again brought life back to the land of Israel and blessed his people with food. Naomi prepared to return with her daughters-in-law. With Orpah and Ruth at her side, she began her journey back to Judah, leaving the place where she had lived. Naomi said to Orpah and Ruth, "You have accompanied me far enough. You must both return to Moab. Go home to your mother's care and your people. May the Eternal show his loyal love to you just as you demonstrated it to my dead sons and me. I hope he will bring you new husbands and that you will find the rest you deserve in their homes." She drew close, kissed them, and turned to go on her way alone. But Orpah and Ruth wailed and sobbed, crying out to her.
The story continues. Orpah and Ruth both said, "Don't leave us. We insist that you take us with you, to live with you and your people." But Naomi said, "Go back to your homes, my daughters. What possible reason would you have for returning with me? Do you think there will be more sons inside of me? Will you marry those unborn sons? Listen, daughters, go back. I'm too old. I will not marry again because I cannot conceive. And even if I could, if I still believed there was hope for me, or if I had a husband and conceived sons tonight, would you waste a lifetime waiting for them to grow up? Would you let this hope for the future keep you from remarrying now? Of course not. My dear daughters, it is obvious that the Eternal has acted against me. My life is much too bitter for you to share with me." At this, Orpah and Ruth wailed and wept again. Then Orpah kissed Naomi and said goodbye and returned the way she had come. Yet Ruth refused to let go of Naomi. "Look at your sister-in-law. She has returned to live with her people and to worship her gods. Go, follow her." Ruth said, "Stop pushing me away, insisting that I stop following you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will also die and be buried there near you. May the Eternal One punish me, and even more so, if anything besides death comes between us." This is the word of the Lord. That must have been hard. That must have been really hard. At that time, these 3 women find themselves alone, widowed. And really, the only way a woman had hope of sustaining life was with a man. That's just the way life worked. You had to have a husband. The husband was the one who worked out in the fields, and the husband brought the things home, and you took care of the home. And when you became widowed, you had to depend on other family. Hopefully you had some good in-laws that might take you in. Hopefully there was maybe an uncle, or maybe there was somebody who could take you into their home, because the only way of surviving was that way. And so as these women look at themselves, and all 3 of them now widows, Naomi says, "Look, this is This is going to be a hard, hard, hard road. You don't need to follow me. She says, I'm old. I'm not going to have any kids. I don't really have any future for you. You are still young. You're still full of life. Go and find some life somewhere other than with me. And they looked at that hard, hard life, and somehow Ruth said, no, I'm going to step out of the norm. I'm going to step outside of this patriarchal society and say, you know what? Despite all this, we're going to make life happen. This might be one of the first feminist writings we have, right? That this daring woman is saying, you know what? We don't need a man. We don't need a man. We can do life without a man. We can do life together. And as long as we stick together, we'll be able to do this. And she does. She goes with him, and she goes out into the field, and she works hard, and she gets enough food to keep bringing food back home to her family. And her and Naomi make it. Amazing, because of this amazing commitment that she makes. And actually, the promise that she makes with Naomi sounds an awful lot like marriage vows, doesn't it? She's saying, you know what? We can do life together. We don't necessarily need a man. That we can sustain life with one another. Wherever you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you live, I will live. Where you die, I will die. Nothing will separate us except for death. Yeah, sounds an awful lot like a wedding. Wow, really? 2 women got married in the Bible? That's kind of different. But here it is. 2 women decide to do life together. And somehow this displays the amazing broad goodness of God's love. And this woman now, not only that, right? So now Ruth is an outsider. She's not from Israel. She doesn't believe in the God of Israel. She's got her own God. She's got her own family. She's got her own people. And Naomi comes into town with her to this brand new place. They cross the border, and the people on the other side cheer for them. This woman from another country, this woman with a different religion, who has no family and no reason to be in this new country, they're running because, there's famine, and they're looking for a place where they can do life, crosses a border, and when they cross that border, these new people cheer. Wow, that's really different than the world we live in now, isn't it? Yeah. And again, that demonstrates the huge, expansive broadness of God's love in the world. And this was a story told 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, right? And somehow we still struggle. To conceive of that kind of love being possible in the world. We still struggle. We still struggle in this world to say that a woman can do life on her own, that they must have to depend on a man. I know there's a lot of women in this room who wouldn't believe that, but there's still people out there in the world who do, who think that women are somehow a second class. And yet, here we have this story that we hold that says, no, they're not. That women are strong, that women are courageous, and that women are just as capable of doing life on their own, if not better than a man, right? And we also live in a world that might look and say, well, if you're not from here, and if you don't believe what we believe, and if you're just coming because, things weren't good enough in your country, too bad. Go back, because there's not enough here. And yet here we have this story that says, no. We can celebrate people who come from other places, and maybe even they have gifts to share. Because Ruth is actually really important to our story as Christians, right? It is because of Ruth that Jesus exists later. Part of the lineage of Jesus Christ is Ruth, this outsider, this person who came from outside, who didn't believe in the right God, who was born in a different country, who maybe even spoke a different language. It's because of her that Jesus is born. And so you have to trace this line, this lineage, and even for the Israelite community, King David. It's because of Ruth that King David comes to exist. And so you have to look and say, wow, wait a minute. So we need immigrants. We need immigrants who maybe even come from different religions, who maybe even come from poor countries. We need them, and maybe they have something to offer, something to teach us. And if we don't, maybe we never get King David. Maybe we never get Jesus. And so what happens when we build up walls between us and other people and say, you're not good enough? We're not willing to share this space with you. We're not willing to welcome you into this place. Are we cutting ourselves off from possibly meeting God in the midst of our lives? When we look at people and say, you're not really as worthy, you're not really as capable of being fully human, are we cutting ourselves off from experiencing God through the gifts and talents of that person? And yet, in this world, we, as Christians, we make a promise to bring to light a new way of being. That we can say, where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you live, I will live. Where you die, I will die. And we make a promise that we can say that to everyone, right? That we make this bold promise that as people of God, we will make these deep relationships with the people around us. Going all the way back, right, to Adam and Eve. When Adam finally looks at Eve, he finally says, I finally have a partner, someone to do life with together. There's something within us that there's this deep desire for us to be able to do life together and to live life abundantly. That's primal. And then the Bible over and over and over again tries to get us to break down all the walls that we think prevents us from really doing life together with people, to say, guess what? You can do life fully and abundantly, even with the people that you think you shouldn't. And that's why we get into this messy business of being church. Today we're going to hear a little bit about Echo and the work that they do in the community and the messy work that they get into of what it means to be there for people who are going through difficult times. And yet we say that's what we're saying yes to. We say yes because we want to do life fully, and we want to embrace people, and we want to say your gifts matter. And therefore, we're going to cheer, just like the family did when Ruth showed up and Naomi showed up. We're going to cheer when you show up, and we're going to feed you, and we're going to clothe you, because you, too, have gifts and talents to share. We say yes to a new and different way of life, where women really are equal to men and can do life that way, where it doesn't matter where you're from. That even if you're from a different place and you speak a different language, we might lift that up and honor that and say, we need you in this place to teach us something new about who we are and whose we are. So as we go out from here, let the Holy Spirit stir within you. Let it make you ask a question. Am I putting up some walls that don't need to be put up? Am I working to dismantle some of those walls that get put up fictitiously? How am I working in the world to make sure that this love of God that is so big and broad and expansive, how am I making that a reality in the communities I live and I work, whether it's at school or at work or where you live, in your neighborhood? How do you participate in showing, demonstrating this amazing, expansive love of God to a world that really needs it? Amen.